Good morning.
Good morning, my name is Diana Mixenfors.
My name is Ana Raz Hernandez.
My name is Liliana Lundberg.
My name is Ariel Rodriguez.
My name is Evan Lobo.
The question that we have today is how can we alleviate Indian country poverty?
The definitions for how can we alleviate Indian country poverty, or how we have used to ask about the conditions or quality of something, can and can be permitted to. We is to use by a speaker to refer to himself or herself, and one or more other people considered together. Alleviate is make less severe. Indian country, a term used to describe land in the United States, which is held in trust by the federal government or Native American tribes. Poverty, a state or condition in which a person or community lacks financial resources and other essentials for a minimum standard of living.
My article is called Persistent Poverty on Indian Reservations, New Perspectives and Responses. According to my article, a man named Narayana Kotra Lakota was the president of a federally reserved bank of Minneapolis. He wanted to talk about the community development's needs and opportunities for American reservations. As we all know, the formerly independent and culturally distinct tribes were forced onto reservations. Narayana talks about the low moderate income and how in the 1970s it was not far above $5,000 per year. That was about half to two-thirds of the income of blacks, Hispanics, and non-reserve Indians, and about a third of the income of whites. He also explains that the poverty rates on reservation are nearly as triple the national rate. Over 40% of children live in poverty. In the article, it explains that there are rankings for children and parents. The article also shows graphs of how many natives live in the U.S., along with another graph that shows that different races' income. Another graph shows how many native populations are identified, which is 5% of the population. The natives' incomes have grown more during the years. Minneapolis was encouraged by other banks and tribes to assist with developing enhanced tribal commercial laws by facilitating the flow of credit on reservations. Narayana would like others to help with the natives who are on the reservation by donating money.
Thank you. Next.
My article is called Privatizing the Reservation, Stanford Law Review by Kristen Carpenter and Angela Riley. The problems of American Indian poverty is numerous reasons. The arguments on the reservation are based on lack of restraint and prevent ability to create wealth. Terry Anderson has argued for increased individual nations being able to transfer to new ownership and make it or become less federal responsibility with respect to the tribal lands and resources. The more I read about the article, made me research more about the article. The Indian poverty on the reservation is high. The substandard housing, poor health, crimes, living condition, and addiction. Native Americans rely on the treaties, but they are always broken. Like what happened in South Dakota, tension due to treaty violations, including the Wounded Knee massacre in 1890. No justice, no good leadership, and lack of jobs. Another reason is there is corruption within the tribe. The Trump administration calls for the privatization of Indian lands, which means that some people believe that the main reason for poverty on Native American reservation is due to the federal government holding land and trust of tribes, which restricts the ability to sell or develop. Limiting economic opportunities and hindering economic growth within the reservation. Most recently, Indian lands and sources have become targets on the Trump administration, which is pending in court till this day.
My artic-
Thank you.
My article was called Grant to Help Urban Natives Lift Themselves from Poverty by Nicole Hannah Jones. According to Nicole Hannah Jones' article, Grant to Help Urban Natives Lift Themselves from Poverty, a Native American Youth and Family Center received a $3.36 million grant to reduce poverty in the Native community of Portland, Oregon. The Native Youth Center planned to form a financial center, catering business, job training center, and to build affordable housing. This is a great solution to reducing poverty in an urban environment because there are many Native people migrating to the cities for more opportunities. The main purpose of receiving this grant is to conquer poverty that is happening at an increasing rate in the city areas. A financial center will present the Native community with providing financial services like home and business loans. It can be difficult to not know where to go for these resources with helpful services, so supplying this assistance is very useful. NAYA's idea for a Native catering business aimed to create jobs and revenue in the cities. It can be a challenge for Native people to find decent employment jobs. With the Native catering business located in the urban cities, it shows great representation as Indigenous people. A job training center with assistant programs is a great solution to alleviating poverty for the Native community in Portland. The Native Youth and Family Center plans to use the grant to purchase an old school building and turn it into affordable housing. For example, low-income families have the ability to qualify for housing that is within their budget. NAYA has a great approach to decreasing poverty by making great use of the grant to provide resources available to succeed in surviving the city lifestyle. It is crucially important that this topic be discussed more often due to awareness being low on how Indigenous people suffer from poverty in urban populations. The Native American Youth and Family Center made resources accessible for families affected by the poverty crisis in the community of Portland, Oregon.
Thank you.
According to Adam Kreppel, White States and Indian Wars removing the federal bureau to empower tribal economies and self-government. Present-day Indian poverty is a direct consequence of present-day federal Indian law and policy. This article demonstrates the federal regulations impeding tribal economic developments that are based upon racist ideas. Poverty, however, remains a significant problem for Indians, as they have the highest poverty rate in the United States overall. The Indian income is $39,719 versus the overall U.S. income of $57,617. Due to differences discussed later, the poverty rate is worse on reservations. The Indian poverty rate is high because the unemployment rate was 50% even before COVID-19, twice the United States unemployment rate during the Great Depression. Reservation poverty rebounds into other areas that feature economic development. Most roads in Indian country are unimproved, earth and gravel, and regarded as the worst in the United States. Indian country's water conditions are even worse than the roads, as the 2016 House Committee on Natural Resources report found that over 500,000 people, nearly 48% of tribal homes in Native communities across the United States do not have access to reliable water sources, clean drinking water, or basic sanitation. President Andrew Jackson, the most anti-Indian president in U.S. history, believed Indians should be able to govern reservations with minimal federal involvement. This will allow tribes to experiment with new rules, blending their traditional commercial practices with the modern world. Moreover, the application of tribal law furthers the United States Indian policy of tribal self-determination. Tribal law is the answer to Indians' country economic status.
Thank you. Good.
My article is called Spelling the New CRA, one change to the law could invigorate tribal economies by Prior John. According to Prior John's article Spelling Relief, CRA, one change to the law could invigorate tribal economies. States that tribal leaders have struggled to find fundings from large banks in efforts to put a reverse effect on chronic poverty and housing shortages on Native American lands, and for the most part, relied on government grants and subsidized loans from smaller rural banks to fund projects such as school buildings, housing, and other infrastructures. To combat this issue, a proposal from the Office of Comptroller of the Currency and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp would give larger banks credit under this Community Reinvestment Act for the lending they do in Indian country. This proposal is a part of an effort to restore the CRA. They hope the change would provide an incentive the tribes need to attract from larger banks while sparking up economic growth on reservations. The Comptroller of the Currency, Joseph Oding, states, the proposal would encourage banks to provide more capital investment and lending in Indian country. Current regulations have neglected these communities far too long, and it's critical to make these changes now to encourage banks to do more in these communities and other rural and distressed areas.
Thank you. All good summaries. Ariel started with the bank in Minneapolis and gave us rankings, credits, lots of graphs with different information. Can you tell me what year that was written, that article? Is it recent?
Probably not, I think it was.
Is it in your citation? So go down to Works Cited and see where the year is. That's how you find out the year. It's important to know if it's current, but there is old data that's very good. The whole idea is about banking, monies, development for Indian country and it's data-based, so it has those graphs. And then Anna told us about privatizing individuals, the list of issues that need to be, solutions for. Diana talked about Portland, Oregon, and job training with grants, with a youth family center, and the need for resources for training. Okay, you're in school. Some of this schooling is about training. Evan talked about federal regulations, gave us the self-governance idea, theme, and Indian law. He gave us a stat there that average native income is 39 grand versus 57 for everybody else. And stats are good for speeches to inform and speeches to persuade. So everything you are hearing today, you can take ideas from and maybe find a topic. Lily had the reliance on grants and project proposals for banks to encourage monies toward Indian country because they've been so underserved, and so they need to look at reinvestment. And I've just kind of summed up the summaries, but the criteria is all laid out there. And we even heard students say the word solution. We heard students say the word proposal, which is pushing forward. We're proposing this, so this should be done. And that's part of group work, is that you want to solve something. So any questions from the audience on this poverty issue? What do your reservations do for infrastructure needs? Okay, thank you.